Those Were the Days is filmed before a live internet audience.
Hello, friends and family and fellow TV viewers. It's another episode of Those Were the Days, and we are so happy to see you with us tonight as we continue crossovers, the theme where one show guests on another show. To what extent, we don't know, but we're going to find out, especially tonight, as we get into tonight's big episode. But I can't talk about any of it without bringing out my best friends. She's always putting up with our shenanigans. It's Amy.
So, watching a sitcom does require, a bit of suspension of disbelief, This episode.
He makes sure your packages are delivered. It's Audie.
Hey, honey. Yeah, the neighbor's heading back over here. The old one, always wearing the sweaters. Yeah, the one that went crazy the one time we put trash bag in their can, which they had plenty of room for. No, he's definitely making his way to our yard. Oh, he's eyeing the lemon tree. He's always taking our fruit. That's it. Honey, let the dog out now. Yeah, let's see how much fruit he can take with a Rottweiler chasing him. Oh, now he's using pepper spray on the dog. Little does he know Daisy eats pepper spray for breakfast. Good luck, Grandpa.
There's a B-side to this show that I need to see now. I need that. He lives in your house, eats all your food, and tells you what you're doing wrong. It's TV's Travis.
All right, so while there is a suspension of disbelief for most sitcoms that you have to go through, this episode did something more realistic than anything else I've ever seen in a TV show, and that is how the game of Monopoly ended.
That's accurate.
It was accurate, and I think maybe one of the loudest cheers and laughs of the entire episode was when that happened. I don't know if it was canned or not, but people got a kick out of it. And I wish I could tell you if it was canned or not, but the facts on this show are not real. There's not real depth. We don't have a lot of depth here, which may be a
there's
theme.
There's no real comprehensive wiki.
No.
Nobody's out there.
Nobody's out there going, let me tell you everything there is to know about the oral history of King of Queens does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
The neurodivergence did not latch onto this one.
No. The show we're talking about tonight is a show called The King of Queens, starring Kevin James and Leah Remini and the incredible Jerry Stiller. Along with a cast of characters from all over the place. We had Patton Oswalt in this show. Like, it didn't have it wasn't short on talent of people that were on this show for sure. It ran from September 21st, 1998 to May 14th, 2007. I mean, 9 years, decent run with a total of 207 half-hour episodes. This show comes from an interesting time in television, in my mind, probably from my age, and just it's like a weird. We're coming off Home Improvement. We're inventing new sitcoms, whether you're ready for them or not. But I guess we could start by finding out where everybody's, if you have a relationship at all, what might it be with the King of Queens? Amy, we'll start with you.
So this is definitely from a time because this started. My junior year of high school, right? And then ran through all of college. So I was not in a real sitcom place at the time. Like, I'm sure I've watched some episodes. I feel like I don't know. I feel like there's one that I maybe have in my head somewhere. Details. I was scrolling through the app to get to this episode. I was reading some of the description and I was like, I don't know about some of these. I feel like some of these are not going to hold up quite so well. So I mean, I'm familiar with it, but I don't think I really ever watched it.
Sure, fair enough. Audie, how about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I definitely knew it existed. I know I had seen episodes. I couldn't tell you what they were about. but I knew everybody that was on here and all the cast that has come through and what they do. You know, I'm a fan of Kevin James comedy and seen that before. So I've, you know, I knew of it. It's funny because I was talking to a friend before this, and telling them about how I know Leah Remini, not from King of Queens, but from Saved by the Bell,
Yeah.
because she was
All
on like
right.
that half season where they had summer jobs, and she was the daughter of the
Mhm.
owner of the place.
right.
The
and,
Hawaiian
you know,
episode. She was at the resort in
Yeah.
Hawaii.
is that what they were? Okay,
Yeah, they all went to Hawaii, and it was like a 3 or 4 episode arc. You know, and then it
Yep.
was at some resort. I think it was in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just California. It was just a resort. Now I'm questioning myself.
Yeah, I thought it was just a resort that they were doing
Berenstein
summer
Bears.
jobs for, but
Yeah, I don't know.
that's where I think of her
Every
from
other
first and
sitcom
foremost.
from that era went to Hawaii, so I feel like
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
not,
yeah.
you know, I don't
Yeah.
At
feel like
some
you're
point,
not that
everybody
far
went
out.
to Hawaii.
Yeah.
I think the Hawaii for Saved by the Bell was more like Zach and Kelly's wedding or something like that. But,
Yeah, I think it
Oh,
was.
yeah. We haven't been to
but
that
anyways,
show
that's
yet.
where I think of her from. I know, surprisingly.
I know.
But yeah, that's how I know King of Queens.
Okay, cool. What about you, Travis?
First of all, if you had told me or asked me when this show debuted, I would not have guessed 1998. I don't know why. I felt like it was newer than that for some reason. I do remember King of Queens. I even remember like occasionally watching episodes of it, but sort of like everyone else, I couldn't tell you anything about it other than who was in it and that he worked for a legally distinct UPS knockoff. Was a delivery driver. That was basically it. Like I knew Patton Oswalt was in it. I knew Jerry Stiller was in it, and that it was the tried and true sitcom formula of big schlubby guy and his gorgeous wife, and she puts up with his shenanigans for some reason, and that's
I want to
basically it.
shake that woman. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. For me, I watched this a lot, but not when it was debut, like not during its initial run. Every episode of this I watched in syndication. After I got home from work, and Stephanie got home from, I think she was in college for pharmacy school at the time. She would get home, we'd make dinner, and on TBS, pretty sure it was TBS, we'd have
That seems right.
King of Queens and Everybody Loves Raymond back to back. So we would watch this block of stuff while eating spaghetti at our tiny little table with the 2 chairs from Target, because that was our place in life, and we would just chuckle. We would have a nice soft chuckle the whole time we watched both of these shows. This episode didn't entice as many chuckles as I remember the show being able to pull out of me back in the day, for me, but it's a crossover, and that's what we're talking about. And this episode did cross over with Everybody Loves Raymond, probably because Kevin James and Ray Romano are friends. I feel like everybody's friends with Kevin James to some degree. Like, he's that guy in Hollywood that's like I feel like people who don't like him just don't like his comedy or don't like his movies because they're just goofy, you know?
Yeah.
Like Paul Blart, Mall Cop, you know? That's just Kevin James being, but there's nothing wrong with what he's doing. It's kind of like the Guy Fieri thing where everybody's just like, I hate that guy. You don't really have a reason to. He's fine. He's just easy to be like, why is he successful and I'm not?
Yeah,
Look
it's the
up
same
his
thing as like
comic
Sinbad.
sketch. Look up Kevin James' comic sketch of picking a card.
Okay.
It is one of the best comedy stand-up sketches. He doesn't say a word.
Really?
He just acts out
Amazing.
going to pick out a card for somebody, and it's amazing.
I mean,
that's great.
His stand-up is good. Like I was kind of saying there, but he reminds me a bit of like Sinbad in that way. Like Sinbad is really funny. He does really good stand-up. There are people that don't like Sinbad for whatever reason, and there's like nothing to not like about him.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's kind of like Kevin James. They're just sort of they're really good, and they're able to work stand-up comedy and don't have to go blue for it to be incredibly fun.
Yeah. I heard Sinbad talk about that one time on I think it was on Mark Maron's podcast maybe. And he talked about he learned you could do clean comedy really well from, of all people, Red Fox. because Red Fox was
Yeah.
notoriously
Oh, yeah.
filthy in his records.
Yeah.
But if his mama came to his show, he would clean it up, and he would still bring down shots. Like he would not be filthy in front of his mom. And Sinbad's like, he would still just tear it up. He said, "You're really funny if you can do both." So yeah, it's clean comics get a hard. It's more difficult for them, I think, sometimes, unless like Jim Gaffigan's one of those rare cases where like everybody loves Jim Gaffigan and he's a clean guy. But yeah, anyway, back to the show. So this show, it didn't do super well in its first season, which is unfortunately one of the episodes that we watched was from the first season. 33% approval rate or like ratings of how good season 1 was. It gradually worked its way up in ratings and ended its final run at 85% of whatever percentage that is. I think it's Rotten Tomatoes reviews.
Sure.
But it peaked at number 19 in the top 40 of television. It mostly because it was a Monday night thing and it was competing against Seventh Heaven. Which
Wow.
I mean, there's an audience for Seventh Heaven and there's an audience for anything that's
Yeah, there
not
was.
Seventh Heaven.
It's true.
Absolutely.
As a kid who spent a lot of his high school years in religious circles, there were kids allowed to watch Seventh Heaven, even though it was the worst example of good behavior I've ever seen.
I was going to say, there might be 75 people watching Seventh Heaven for it. There might be 25% of us that hate watched it just to see how bad it was.
Yeah. Which of these actors will have no emotion while they read their lines today? We'll find out. It was something else. What a time to be alive. But in 2003, it moved against The West Wing and Nanny 911, which that's why Audie missed it. The West Wing was on. Yeah. You can't. I mean, what are you gonna do? And there it began to drop in ratings. So naturally, TV executives take a show that's doing well, move it, and then it falls apart. And they're like, "Why did they do this to us? Why isn't it any good anymore?" It's the Eric Andre pointing the gun at the dude. Why did TV ratings do this to us?
Who would do this?
So it began to drop. The final episode aired May 14th, 2007. So it ran, but it still had a good run. It's beloved. I think one of the things I love the most about the show is Jerry Stiller playing Arthur Spooner, the live-in dad.
He steals it.
He just walks away with every scene he's in because he's such a wonderfully lovable curmudgeon.
Well, because his character of Arthur is just completely and utterly unhinged.
Yes.
It's so good.
Yeah.
He has a lot of complaints about you people.
Yeah.
It's just like canonically in my head, I'm like, oh, they must be like half siblings, her and George. They just,
Yeah.
I buy that.
And just
Definitely.
his presence and his delivery, it's just like, it's uncanny what he can do.
Oh, he's so good. He's so good. I remember watching this with Stephanie, and every time we watched this show, I'd be like, Stephanie, Arthur's your dad. Like, up one way and down the other. Because I remember an episode where he walks into the kitchen to throw something away in the trash can, and he just stares at the trash can for a minute, like down into it. And he says, "Who threw away this container?" And he picks up this like mayonnaise jar. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's your dad.
Oh no.
He's going to go wash that out.
Also my dad. Yeah.
I need to pull the curtain back for a second and let everybody know that because of Jerry Stiller in this episode, my intro was going to be yelling about getting lemons until Audie went before me and didn't steal my bit, but did just enough where I had to pivot last second and come up with something else. Because that was the moment in the episode that made me laugh out loud when he starts yelling about the lemons.
Oh, yeah.
I lost it. It was amazing.
Anytime he's yelling, I'm in. There was an episode one time where he's talking about getting lemon ices as a kid from a place. And they did a flashback, like at the closer when the credits are rolling, of this kid walking into this little ice cream shop, slamming some money on the table and just yelling, "Lemon ices!" And so anytime that we want to have like shaved ice, lemon, whatever, I will just yell lemon ices. Like, just get me lemon ices. It's the best. I can't get over it.
That's
It
hilarious.
makes
For
me
some
so
reason, that
happy.
just makes me think of the current meme I see going around today of mustard being yelled. Like, Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that. I don't understand it, but I've seen it.
Yeah, me either.
Funny enough, we almost did not get Jerry Stiller in this show. The comedian Jack Carter was cast and shot in the pilot because Jerry Stiller didn't want to do it. And then he just decided to change his mind and came on because they wrote the part for him. The whole pitch was that he would be the guy because he was just perfect for it. I like this succinct quote from Rotten Tomatoes. It says, "The King of Queens would never reign as a critical darling, but the series bowed out with dignity as an unassuming and undemanding sitcom worth having a beer with." And I feel like that's pretty appropriate, given what we got out of it. It's like, it's just a show. It's not really gonna knock your socks off, but it's not gonna leave you wishing you hadn't watched it. You know, you're gonna walk away with something.
Sure.
And I think sometimes it's okay for TV to do that. Like sometimes it's plain potato chips, and that's okay. And this probably goes for a lot of these shows. Like you said, I think in whose intro was it? One of you guys were talking about it. Is the schlubby husband archetype and the beautiful wife archetype. Like this is a sitcom trend for a few years, but I feel like the husbands got more schlubby and the wives got more strict and more beautiful. Like we went through this era of TV.
I mean, it was Fred Flintstone and Wilma from the beginning.
No, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah,
We've been doing this forever.
We've been doing this for a long
which
time.
Which is why when the most recent season of Bridgerton,
Honeymooners.
and there were all these articles about like, is the world ready for mixed weight couples? and every woman collectively threw something at
Throw
someone.
something
I mean, writing that's like, did you ever hear of Jackie Gleason, like the Honeymooners?
Right, exactly. The Honeymooners.
With
That's
the
another
dawn
one.
of television.
It's so stupid. Yeah. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
But
This is another show that was brought up in the big list. It's like that's never happened before. You're right.
Yeah, ever.
Homer and Marge. Like, no.
Yeah, no, you're right. I guess what I'm thinking of is when this came out, I was knee deep at a Christian school where the people were continually fussing. The men in television do not do anything they're supposed to do. They're all portrayed as schlubby, and the wives win. Because, this is the circle I was in at the time.
Yeah.
And so it was this big old thing like, TV never shows any men being strong and taking charge. They're all a bunch of children. That was the whole thing. So maybe that's why it sticks in my head is like this era, because it was just, they're just like, hey, we'll make sure that our young men take charge. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking. I'm in 7th grade. Relax, man. Like, we're not all gonna be presidents here, I know what that kid does in his off time, and he's not gonna be what you want. But anyway, we don't have to deal with past trauma here with me right now.
Wait till
Show us on the doll.
We can talk about television, the safe space for all of us. So this show we're doing crossover. So we're getting into it. There's always a cold open on any of these shows where they do some goofy thing, and this is where Kevin James does what Kevin James does best: dancing. In an incredibly goofy way. And there's charm to it. I mean, I would do that if Stephanie's like, let's dance. It's the thing. Your dad's always gonna dance like a goofy weirdo. It's kind of part of it, We're either gonna make you laugh or you're gonna leave.
Or just want to watch Sports Center.
Yeah.
What I liked about this scene was that there were two halves to it. The first half was all jokes and like linguistic humor, and then it's the physical comedy after that. Because the first part of it, she's like, "But that's our song." He's like, what are you talking about? And they both remember the moment, but he remembers it completely different. Like, yeah, you asked me to dance at whatever, so and so's birthday party. And he's like, yeah, and you said no.
Flip me
I
off.
was shy. Yeah, but you flipped me off.
I like that a lot.
It's doing that to everybody.
Yeah, that was.
And then they do start to dance, and like she's into it to start, and it just keeps getting more and more ridiculous.
Yeah. She's it's charming for like the first 10 seconds, and then she's just like, All right, I'm done now. This is
All
just
right.
this is just
Yeah.
you.
It was going to go somewhere, and then he decided it was not. All right.
Yeah, he became that dancing bird, like side by side to side. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you go and you're like, nah, I don't think so. This isn't working.
No.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I tried to figure out, like, I watched this show 3 times between when we talked about it to tonight, and I still don't remember what the intro is. So I don't know, it's not as memorable as a lot of
Yeah.
music and tunes
No.
and shows.
Well, season 1, there wasn't much of an intro at all. Then they
Mhm.
wrote a theme song because I found it when I was posting today.
Oh,
And I
okay.
was like, oh, hey, there's an
Oh.
actual theme song that we didn't hear at all.
Yeah.
Oh, but I found the version of it. So,
Yeah. It's very nondescript canned music that you could somebody's holding down a button on their Casio keyboard. Like,
Mhm.
there we go.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
Well, the
theme to
actual-
me.
Yeah, the theme song from here on was called Baby All My Life I'll Be Driving Home to You. And it was like an actual theme song written for the show. And it was decent, but it
Oh
was
wow. Okay.
only season 2 on.
Yeah. I remember nothing of it.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
remember it. Like, I only figured it out because I was like, because when I post on Instagram, I try to find music to do a reel, and it's like,
Mm.
I try to find music associated with the show or something. It's like,
Mhm.
did this have a theme song?
Yeah,
And then I looked it up enough to be like, oh, okay.
sure.
You could play 10,000 songs for me and tell me every one of them was the theme song to the show, and I would
Yeah.
believe you.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing to go
Mhm.
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was gonna say, when I found it, I was like, oh, okay. Didn't remember it. Didn't know it.
So after we get the intro, we get a little bit of kind of the main one of the through lines, at least for Carrie, played by Leah
Mhm.
Remini in this show, where Arthur Jerry Stiller is bothering her while she's trying to do work. This is what happens if your parents live in your house. This is just going to be a thing because you are always their child, no matter how old and how many responsibilities you have. They're gonna bother you. So he comes in asking her, like, where's Doug? And I love the way he said, I need someone to shave my back. That just tickled me. And she's studying for, I guess she's going to be a paralegal. And we get the wonderful joke
Oh my gosh.
out of Arthur, like paralegals to do all that and feel nothing from the waist down. Just
And still practice law.
still practice law.
Practice law.
It took me a second. I was like, oh, wait, okay. I see what he's doing
Okay.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's the basic vibe of what's happening is we've got her wanting to get things done and him bothering her. But then this is where we get our crossover moments is Doug at the DMV. He's trying to be cute with the DMV lady, and I really
Don't be
identified
cute with
this.
the DMV lady.
Well,
I
No.
just did the whole DMV.
Yeah, no.
You go, you have your folder of paperwork. You take your number. There's no screw. Just it's the soup Nazi from Seinfeld. You do what you got to
Yep.
do. Step to the side. Don't mess with the program.
Yeah, they don't like charming. They're not there for that. But I felt for him because I always try to make a connection with everybody that I'm dealing with while I'm doing stuff that's not pleasant. And so I was like, man, she's just not working with you at all, is she? That's sad. So he's there to take his driver's test, which I'm not from New York.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
was
yeah.
where they lost me, man. This was where they lost me to the point where I did look up. There are no states that require a written test to renew your license, short
Okay.
of it being suspended or
Yeah,
if it has been expired for like years and years and years.
right.
No, this doesn't happen. Like this is not,
Mhm.
none of this happens.
This is-
And now
yeah.
I couldn't. I just was so mad about it the whole episode.
Yeah, and here's the thing too: is he's a delivery driver for a knockoff UPS. I
Yeah.
had that job at one point, so because of that job, I had to have a special driver's license for it. You don't just use a
CDL.
SIT.
Right.
So in Michigan, it's what's called a chauffeur's license.
Oh,
It's
all right.
basically there's 3 levels. There's a standard operator's license, there's the
Mhm.
chauffeur's license, and then the CDL,
Yeah,
which is commercial
truck.
driver's license
Mhm.
for bigger trucks.
Right.
And you take a written test to get that chauffeur's license once, and then you
Yeah.
never have to do it again,
Right.
ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just renew it as a chauffeur's license all the
Mhm.
time, so I'm legal to drive any vehicle up
Can
to
you imagine what the
whatever
DMV would be like if everybody had to take a written test to renew their license?
It would be
Yeah.
awful. There's no state
It
in
would
the
be
already
so
union
bad.
the
Mhm.
capacity for that. Like it's not gonna be a
No.
thing. Yeah, good
Anyway,
point.
it's not a thing, and I got mad about it.
And you know
There we
what?
go.
You're allowed to be mad about it because it's
Mhm.
that's you're right. It's not a thing. I didn't put enough brain power into it to care. So
Yeah.
I was just like,
See,
this is the world I'm accepting. Moving forward, okay.
the
Mhm.
funny thing, I didn't get mad about him having to take a test. I got mad about the whole setup. Like, okay, you care about them not cheating, but you put them in like
They're
everybody
just
could just
standing.
look around and talk to each other. That's fine. Okay,
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah,
Well, they're
Yeah.
depending on the fact that no one wants to talk to anyone else while they're at the
that is
DMV.
true.
Like
True.
most people, especially now, maybe less in the late 90s, but especially now, no one wants to talk to people.
I played
Mhm.
peekaboo with a small child at the DMV.
Of
See,
course
that's
he did.
different. Everybody, you can't help it. Like when you're on the airplane and there's a kid peeking
Yeah.
back, and you're like,
No, what are you gonna do?
yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah,
you know,
you gotta.
yeah, it's part of the job as being a human. It's required. But yeah, so they go over. Doug's got his thing. He's all do. I'm solving this. I'm cocky, passing my test,
I was gonna
whatever.
say him being cocky by being a professional driver was hilarious.
That was good. Yeah, oh, I do this for a living. I know all these answers. Which I
Mhm.
started getting nervous. I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes you do things for a living, and then you find out 10 years later, oh, you're not supposed to handle food
Right?
that way. You know,
Well,
like
But here's the thing with the driver's test, it's literally the most basic common sense on the road
it mostly, yeah,
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
like I don't want to scare anybody or anything like that. But in order to drive a commercial vehicle, you basically just need a pulse.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not that strict.
it's when you think too hard that you get into trouble. Like, don't think too hard.
If you're driving a large truck with like air brakes, there is a little bit more to that, but your basic drive around vehicles, no, nothing to it.
I mean, you know, the most dangerous vehicle on a road is a U-Haul truck
Yeah.
because it's someone that's been driving a Toyota Camry for the last 20 years is suddenly in a giant box truck.
Yep.
It's fine.
Yeah.
They just let you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You just rent it and
They
go
do.
to town.
They don't make you take a written test or anything.
No, they do not.
Ugh.
Now in North Carolina, they have when you move here, or at least you did. I don't know if they've rescinded that law, but when you moved and became a new resident in North Carolina, you had to take a written test. But once you had it, you had
Yeah,
it.
but
like
that's
you
not
said.
just like
Yeah.
renewing in
Yeah.
the place where you live.
I think our previous governor was going to get rid of that, but I don't know if we're able to accomplish anything in the state. So here we are.
Sure.
I live here now, so I don't really care.
I remember having to do that, but that doesn't mean I didn't have to, and it did.
Oh,
So,
sure. I think my parents moved here. I don't think they had to do it. So it's probably been streamlined, if anything. But this is where we get our crew. You know, those were the DMVs. We'll move past that. We're now talking about Ray Romano, who shows up in this show playing his character from Everybody Loves Raymond, Ray Barone. Ray Barone has not studied for his test, so our friend Doug has to help him. Doesn't have to, but Doug notices it's Ray Barone, the sports writer, if I recall his job from Everybody Loves
Mhm.
Raymond, which
Right.
apparently make a good living as a sports writer in New York.
Apparently.
Like, I mean, yeah, whatever you need. I think newspapers don't pay that well, but maybe you're that guy. So he's
They definitely
over
don't
there
now.
taking his test, and he doesn't have the answers to anything. But so Doug is all excited because he's the sports writer guy. You know,
Mhm.
it's like a local celebrity. You know, if you
Yep.
see the weatherman at the grocery
Yeah.
store, you're like,
Mhm.
weatherman, I know you. So he gets all excited about it, and Ray ends up asking him for help on his test. They do this great back and forth,
It's
with
really funny.
giving each other answers.
Mhm.
Start singing TV theme
The
songs
singing,
to
Lord.
answer and give questions while watching for the really angry DMV lady to make sure she doesn't see
She's
them.
so mad.
Mhm.
I liked it so much.
I was gonna say if there was anything realistic, it was her. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. She was really grumpy about it. I recognized they had the Gilligan's Island theme he used to try to say you go 25 miles per hour in a school zone. What else did they have? They used a few of them, but I didn't write them down because I'm that good as a host. But I like that Doug clearly doesn't want to help him. Like he knows it's cheating and he shouldn't be. But it's
Mhm.
also Ray Barone,
Right.
the sports
Right,
writer. I
exactly.
can't not help him. Hawaii 5-0. That's right. That was another one.
That was the one
Um,
that Ray sings back when
yeah.
he's trying to ask the question
Yep.
about a
Yeah.
loading zone.
Thank you, A Stigma. Yeah, and the Jeffersons. That's right. That one was really good because that one he
That was
worked in
really
a
good.
rhyme and everything. You turn your wheels
Mhm.
toward the away from the curb when you're going down that hill. That was great. Um, so they get caught by the lady. Ray turns in his test, somehow doesn't get caught cheating because it was at this point that Doug had actually moved over to look at the questions on Ray's
Yeah.
test. You know, never mind that there was like a 4-inch divider between people. You could peek at each other all day.
Right.
Yeah, like if they'd
Exactly.
just been at the same table,
They could have cheated all
they
day.
never would have gotten caught.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It would have just been fine. But
Yeah.
no.
So, in further suspension of your disbelief, Doug got his license
Yes.
suspended for cheating for a week.
Not only that, it's that he did, but Ray was fine.
Right.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't.
Even though he was obviously talking to Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were both cheating. This is what happens,
Yeah.
though. I recognize this because I was that kid that every other kid would be doing a thing and nobody get in trouble.
Mhm.
And then the second I did the thing, Steven,
Mhm.
up
Yep.
front right
I-
now.
I got in trouble in kindergarten for telling my friend Doug not to talk. And I got in trouble for talking.
Oh my gosh.
I've not forgotten
worst.
this.
Isn't it
Apparently.
amazing that it
38
sticks to
years.
you? Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
just dealing with all kinds of childhood trauma tonight, aren't we?
Yeah, we're just
Yeah.
gonna work it all out.
We're going to dig into it. We're going to get through this
It's fun.
together. Yeah.
Of all the shows that dig it out, King of
I mean,
Queens.
listen, we're 4 middle-aged people. This is bound to happen.
Yeah, we're going to get there at some point.
True.
Hold on. Let me go get a beer. I'll be back in a
We're
second.
just gonna unravel for a bit.
So he gets caught. Doug goes home to Carrie and it is to explain that his license has been suspended.
Mhm.
But he's defending himself because he's like, Ray, he's a celebrity. And she's like,
He knows
"You're-"
the Jets.
Yeah, he knows the
Right.
Jets. She's upset because now he's at home. He can't work, and I'm assuming it must be an hourly paid job. Seems like a bad deal to have your license
Mhm.
suspended and he can't
yeah.
work. Carrie's there, but she's most upset because she thinks, okay, maybe it's not so bad. I've got a lot of studying to do. You need to occupy my dad.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, I was taking note of their kitchen. It's a pretty decent kitchen for a
It's a
TV
nice
sitcom.
kitchen.
Yeah.
It is.
Like a lot of them don't look functional. This one looked pretty good. I'm all right with it. I mean, I don't know if I like tile countertops. That's just me. But
No,
you
no,
know,
grout bad.
No.
yeah, you're gonna
But
grout
no,
not good.
otherwise.
But
Mhm.
it looked okay. Everything they need. Doug and so we Doug's got to entertain Arthur. This is one of my favorite scenes of the whole show. We alluded to it
Yeah.
earlier. Arthur and Doug playing Monopoly on the
my
bed down in
gosh.
the basement. Arthur rolls the dice, announces his number, moves his piece, lands on Park Place, says, "I'm gonna buy it." Doug's
It was so
response,
good.
Doug. Oh my gosh, yeah.
crushed. He's like, "Okay, a few things. You, I own Park Place. You are not the thimble, and you rolled a 5."
And then there's just the pause,
Yeah,
and then the board goes flying.
the board
He
flies.
just sweeps the board.
And that's
and-
how every game of
And just-
Monopoly.
It's just the
should
beauty of
end.
him doing it subtly. Like there's no anger in that moment until after the flip, and then his
Yep.
face shows it.
He
Mhm.
flicks his feet up, takes up the whole bed, crosses his arms.
It was just that, because he starts it's so the escalation is so good though.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like,
Yeah.
all right, well, I own Park Place. Okay, that's fine. You may not, yeah.
Right.
You're not the
Yeah.
thimble. Rolled a 5.
Right.
Yeah, it was so good, but it's also how Arthur would play that game. Just like I'm
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
gonna
Oh, sure.
do what I want to do, and that's
Mhm.
fine. But yeah, raise your hand if you've had Monopoly boards flipped on you before. Yeah, okay,
yeah.
2, 3, 4,
Mhm.
all of
Mhm.
us.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Been there.
good. Yeah,
Been
we've
there.
all been sitting at the other side going, "What just happened? Why are
Mhm.
you
Yep.
so mad, bro?"
And at the same time, secretly, like, I'm glad somebody did it. I'm tired
Yeah.
of this game.
Thank
Yeah,
God,
this
this game is
game's-
terrible.
it won't
It really
stop.
is.
It's the best thing about the board game revolution that we are currently in. No
Yes.
one has to play Monopoly.
I'm-
There are
Very,
so
very true.
many other options.
I love Monopoly, but I can't ever find anyone else who loves Monopoly, so it's very hard for me because Stephanie hates it. My brother-in-law made her cry playing Monopoly once. She was like, he was so mean. And I was like, you have to be mean in this game. It's cutthroat
Exactly.
real estate. No scratching backs. But Sam likes it, so I play with him sometimes. But we've never finished it because he just
Yeah.
gets bored. Like, come
Uh-huh.
on.
There's a Nintendo or a Mario, one of them, Monopoly version,
Yeah.
and it's faster. It's actually quite fun.
No,
It's
see?
faster and it's a
Yeah.
little chiller, and
It's the Monopoly
It's
Gamer,
actually
isn't
fun.
it?
yeah,
The
Monopoly
with the
Gamer. That's it.
yeah, yeah. Brian
yeah.
Ibbett talked about that once, and he
It is
said
actually quite good
yeah, I need to
for
check
a
that out.
Monopoly.
Sure, yeah. Let's be
The
let's
asterisk.
hold on a second.
Or Monopoly.
I'll tell you the other thing about the scene that bothered me a lot is how they were playing on the bed because
Yeah.
it looked like the
Yeah.
most uncomfortable position
It's so uncomfortable.
because
My
their
back
money's
hurt.
squishing like everywhere because your bed's gonna
Right.
move. And then the way Doug was having to turn his head, I was getting vertigo and getting dizzy just watching
Yeah.
It's
them
not good.
play.
Mhm.
Well, and just the board game perfectionist in me is like every time they move, that board game's going to shift.
Oh,
Things are
yeah.
not
Yeah.
going to stay put.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
tuck the money under the edge, but then it's gonna
Mhm.
move because
Yeah.
you're moving,
Yeah.
and it's just a nightmare. Just play games at a table, everybody. You know,
Mhm.
And then the end of the scene is so good because he just pulls out and he goes, "Okay, Scrabble."
like this is where he's
Yeah.
Board
destined to
on the
do for the
bed.
rest of the week, and
Yeah.
he's just making his best of it. He's like, "Well, we've
I,
got to
I
keep
was
you
waiting for
entertained."
just one more line added on to that, talking about which number of game board we're on at this point.
Yeah.
yeah. Yep. Okay, now we'll play this game. So that's going on, but Doug gets a call from Ray, runs upstairs, and Carrie's got the phone for him, and he wants to invite Doug out because he's feeling bad, about it. And he wants to go, and this is when we get this childish. This is the husband wife relationship from TV. Is I really want to go because Ray's cool and he's taking me to see the Jets, and we're gonna get in a box. And she says, "Well, what am I gonna do with my dad?" And I loved his light. I'll turn his light out. He'll go to sleep. He's like a bird. It's dark.
bird.
He'll think it's nighttime.
That's
was-
so good.
That was really good. And they really made it even better by having him drag the phone across the room and then the cord
Oh my
bouncing in
gosh.
her face.
Right across her face.
Just as the further irritation. And this is when Amy wanted to shake her and say, "You don't have to
I
live like
did.
this.
You
Yeah.
don't have to do this.
You can
Please
go."
don't. Please stop.
Also, just the feeling of being old enough to remember when phones had cords.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
good. I
Yeah.
miss curling a phone cord.
Oh, yeah.
It's a
You
good
walk all
time.
over the house, the cord's just wrapping itself around
Yeah.
children and
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
candlesticks and who
Yeah.
knows what
Yep.
else. Kids
Because
run in
you
the back
invested
door,
in
they're not
the
paying
cordless
attention.
phone.
Because you
Oh.
invested in a longer cord so that you could walk around so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had the
yeah.
retractable one.
Oh,
Oh.
That was a good
fancy.
time. Yeah.
And they would always get like wound up though, and then you had to figure
Oh
out
yeah,
how
and
to
you
get
have to
them
hold the
undone.
thing and
Mhm.
Yeah. Or you
Watch
take
it
like
spin.
a stick and you wrap them around the stick to get them to get the right spring back in. There's all these tricks
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
skills will never need again.
The kids
ever.
these days. I
don't
mean,
have a
who
clue.
knows? Maybe we might,
We might.
Yeah.
and we'll
We-
know.
we
We'll
might.
know the old ways.
Let me teach you, child, how they do this. So they go to this game. Ray and Doug are in the parking lot, walking out. Ray's evidently bought Doug all this stuff because he just feels
Yep.
bad for ruining his life for a week. And then we get them. Ray's like, "You want to drive my new car?" And Doug's like, "I don't have a license. I can't do that." It's fine. You just, please drive it. It'd make me feel better. So they do this, and we get another cameo,
Mhm.
or guest spot from
Yep.
Brad Garrett. His brother
Mhm.
Robert
Yeah.
shows up. I love Brad Garrett. I love
I do too.
Brad
He's really
yeah.
funny.
Garrett. He is just so good, and he was so good as Ray's brother. And I remember the first time I heard him using his normal voice, and it stunned me because it is much higher
Yeah.
than his dopey
Mhm.
brother voice that he uses on
Yeah.
Everybody Loves Raymond. Shocking.
Anytime
Um,
you hear somebody who you only know as a specific character. You hear their real voice, you're like, what the what?
Yeah. Wait, who? What? How?
You know,
What is
like
this?
Larry the Cable Guy. You hear his real Midwestern accent, you're just like, what?
Yeah, it breaks your
What?
brain a little bit.
Or
Yeah.
what's his name? That was Kevin on The Office. If you ever hear him talk,
Yes.
Yep.
Brian.
Brian.
Brian something. I don't remember.
Right.
Yeah. Brian Bumgardner.
Right. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, Gilbert Godfrey's another one. You only the
Mhm.
very rare. If you can find, it's out there.
Yeah.
But it's weird.
Yeah.
It exists, and
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense.
No,
Your
you're like,
brain
nah,
can't
he's-
process it.
He has to sound like Iago the parrot all the time.
Yep.
Like, I don't know any other voice. So they go down the road, and the biggest thing that shocked me in this scene is this car is like 4 feet wide. Once they're in it, like the set they use for these cars is just remarkably tiny.
It's like a
Mhm.
Hummer.
Yeah.
There's no center console. That's all I know.
Yeah.
These are bench seats.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And
at all.
Brad Garrett's in the back, and I know he's like 6'5". You
I was
know.
gonna say you could see him
he's like
hunched
6'8".
over, like
Oh yeah, he's ridiculously tall.
He's very tall.
Yeah. And of course, because it's a late '90s sitcom, we get our barrage of sex jokes in the car, because
Mhm.
that's where we're at in
Yup.
this phase of TV. We're just like, we've told all the clean jokes. How do we make
Mhm.
people laugh now? Barrage of sex jokes. Some of them were funny. I did laugh, but I was also sitting there thinking like, lowbrow. I was yelling. I was doing Jerry Stiller at the TV. Lowbrow humor. It was bad.
It was funny because they told the first one. I was like, oh, okay, and then they kept going and they kept
Just
going and
forever.
they kept going. I was like, okay.
And once I park it, I don't have to talk to it anymore. Sweetheart, you're not gonna get to park it if you keep this up.
These are not jokes I have ever told. Unironically like this. You know what I mean? Anyway, so Robert's in the car. Robert's upset that Doug is getting to drive, and he never gets to drive the car, and he's Ray's brother. So we let slip that Doug doesn't have his license, and Robert is not happy about that because, as we learn, Robert's a cop, and he's like, pull the car
How
over.
dumb is Ray? Ray
Yeah.
would not
Ray-
survive in 2025.
No,
Like,
No.
what are you doing?
No.
Ray is dumb as
Shut
a
your
post.
mouth, man.
Yeah,
No.
it was a bad idea to begin with, and it's still a bad idea. So now Carrie has to
But the
pick
thing-
up Doug. Oh, go
The
ahead.
thing that cracked me up before we get past this scene, the thing that cracked me up the most is like he said pull over. And then before you know it, he's standing at the door as a cop.
It was so good.
It's really
That was
funny.
That was really
amazing.
funny.
Yeah, license and registration, please. No, and he
Mhm.
doesn't have one. It's great.
Because I didn't watch a lot of Everybody Loves Raymond, but I'd seen a few episodes. So when he says pull over to the curb, it was at that point I was like, oh, that's right, Robert's a
Uh-huh.
cop.
Yep.
Yeah, I had forgotten up to that point as
Right,
well.
right,
Like A Stigma
right.
said the same thing. He forgot he was a cop.
Mhm.
So he's out of the car now. Carrie has evidently picked him up from the jail. It seems like he got taken in from the context of their conversation, but it was a $700 fine, his license suspended for another week. But he still wants to be friends with Ray because Ray's a cool guy and he knows people and he can take him places. But Carrie's trying to convince him like Ray is not good for you.
This is a toxic friendship.
Yeah, like she's doing her
You
best. to
can't
tell him.
change him. This is bad
Yep.
for you.
He's
I
like,
love the
"No."
Ray's not the man for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Girl, you've got it wrong.
Yeah. But he's enticed by the cool stuff that Ray can bring to his life. So we're back in the
Mhm.
house, and I was a little confused in this scene because I don't know what time it is. Because they're in bed, like what looks to be sleeping, but the light it's bright outside, and in the phone message that Ray leaves, he says it's 6:30.
Yeah.
I know you're awake, and I'm like 6:30 p.m. or a.m.
No, definitely 6:30
No,
a.m.
6:30
But
a.m.
why would you call him at 6:30 a.m.? I don't want to be your friend if you're calling me at
And-
6:30 a.m.
Why is your answering machine in your bedroom?
Yeah, maybe
Don't put the answering machine in the bedroom.
that's a good
No.
point. You remember ever
Don't.
yelling at people
Mhm.
through the answer machine like, "Hey,
Yeah.
are you home? It's me."
Hey, stop screening your calls. It's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is another thing kids don't know anything about because this is
No,
before
because they don't call.
Yeah, I mean, cell phones work. That's
Mhm.
true. They don't call each other. Man, we should use the phone more. Anyway,
I liked Doug slowly trying to get to the phone and Carrie not moving at all, and then finally just be strong, honey.
yeah, it's like don't talk to him. He's like, pick up, pick up, pick up. Doug finally like leans over and just snuggles her, and then the moment
Mhm.
comes to strike. Like he wants the phone. But
Mhm.
Ray keeps making it more enticing to go out with him throughout the whole call. But he eventually doesn't do it. He's done with Ray till Ray shows up at the pub, which was a delightful looking little pub, and I would eat in there.
Mhm.
I would eat chicken wings and French fries in that place. I could smell that room. I don't know if anybody
Yep.
else could.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it
Oh,
smells
yeah.
like fried. It smells like French fries and beer. And
Mhm.
I'm okay with that. so,
Mhm.
so Doug's sitting there eating, I guess, by himself. I didn't see anybody else show up in that scene. But Ray comes over and is like, I went down to your work and they told me where I could find you, which is getting creepy, Ray. Like, it's,
Like that's yeah.
Yep.
Like it really is the bad
Mhm.
boyfriend.
yeah.
Like for sure.
This
You
isn't,
didn't answer your phone, so I went to your work.
but I think,
Yeah.
And I
I
found
think
you
this is,
here having lunch. Nope.
I think
Eh,
this
Red
is the
flags
point.
all around.
capped off by the "I won't be ignored"
Yes.
line from Ray.
I'm not
It
going to
was
be ignored.
traumatic. It was traumatic watching
Mhm.
this. I was like, no, get away. Girl, run.
it was so deadpan the way he delivered that too. I'm not gonna be ignored. Like just
Mhm.
stop it. But Ray basically tells him like I just feel guilty about it and I'm not gonna be okay if I don't solve this. Like Ray's got this tit for tat mentality. Like I have hurt you and I need to rebalance the scales by fixing this. So let me help you fix it. Doug's trying to get out of it, but finally Ray's like, okay, well, what about this? I bring a cab to your house, I drive you to the DMV so you can take your test again, and then we'll be free. Also, Omaha
Mhm.
steaks.
Right.
Because I like the joke about the Omaha steaks.
Yeah.
Because he did that, Doug tries to refuse him, and then at the end he finally breaks down. Like, when you get the steaks, sign them from Uncle Hank.
Uncle Hank.
Right.
Hey Ray. Hey Ray. Hey, how about that $700? How about
Yeah,
Yeah.
that?
exactly.
Mhm.
Maybe that part?
Yeah,
No? Okay.
yeah, that would actually be a good. I'd be like, you just pay
Yeah.
me $700 and go away. And that would we'd be
Yeah.
we'd be square. Um, we're back in the room now at the next scene with Carrie and Arthur. Arthur brings out tea and cookies. He's trying to be sweet. He's doing the good
Mhm.
dad thing. And Carrie tells a wonderful Mr. T joke. And I
Yes, she does.
laughed. I pity the fool who doesn't like
Mhm.
my tea, or something like that. And Arthur has no idea what she's talking about. That was great.
Well, because
Mhm.
he brought her a little gift from Miss Lorna Doone and
Yep.
Mr. T.
Mr. T.
Yep.
Yeah. Mr. T. And then wait, they talked to she wanted a lemon. This is where we got the lemon
Mhm.
deal where he
Well, it's
was
just
gonna
because
go to the
he
neighbors.
asks her, right?
Yeah. Do you want a lemon? I'll go get some. And that's when he goes into the kitchen.
And he
Just
gets so
Arthur going
mad.
into the kitchen in general, because the early part of the episode, he goes into the kitchen, and it's, I'll leave you alone, and he goes into the kitchen, and then you just hear him. Can I eat what's in the green container?
Mhm.
Can I eat the green thing in the foil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. What about in the butter section? Dad, those are
Those are
batteries.
batteries. So they are.
He's so good, and he pitches his little fit about the neighbors because you can't just go over and get their lemons. Those bastards put their stuff in our garbage cans. That made me
Mhm.
laugh so hard. I loved every bit of it. I mean, I've put stuff in the neighbors' garbage cans before. Our neighbors rented their house and they were gone forever, so I would just use it for recycling cardboard because I get
Mhm.
Amazon packages like daily around here,
Mhm.
and I need more room. I need a bigger recycling bin than I need garbage can. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, anytime Jerry Stiller's yelling about something, I'm happy. So we finally get to the DMV. Doug passes. He's excited. They have an awkward handshake hug moment. Ray's gonna get somebody to come pick him up. Dun dun dun. Foreshadowing. Doug gets in his car ready to drive home, and then he gets slammed behind him by somebody. Turn around and it's Ray's dad.
Mm-hmm.
I think his name's
Mhm.
Frank, right? What's the
I think
dude
so.
that plays Ray's
It is
dad?
Frank. It's Peter Boyle.
Peter Boyle.
Peter
That's
Boyle.
it.
Peter
Gosh,
Boyle.
God rest his soul. Peter Boyle, who was probably one of my favorite parts of Everybody Loves Raymond, if not my favorite part. He just had amazing, he's Jerry Stiller in the Everybody Loves Raymond universe, just the comedic titan that's holding it
Yeah.
down. So he gets nailed. It actually took me a minute to figure out what happened in this, because Doug puts his car in gear and then gets hit, and I wasn't sure if Doug backed into him or if he hit Doug. It was a little unclear to me. But
The show didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah,
they
It was just sort
they
of
did, yeah.
collision.
Yeah, they just like somebody off screen just shoved the car and was like, there,
Mhm.
timing, we did it. But Frank
And I don't
yells
think
at
he was
him.
going. I don't think he was going home. I think he was going to work because he
That's
was in
right.
it. He
He was
put
in
on
his-
his uniform.
yeah,
he
he
was
was in
going to
his
go to
uniform.
work. Finally.
Yeah, getting back in business here.
Yeah.
But I did chuckle. I love to see more characters show up from the other show. So the final to ending sequence, Arthur and Doug are back at home. Arthur is reading just a smut book out loud.
It's really
just
good.
really funny. In a way, he just closes and says, "Well, I'm going downstairs." That's got me pretty good. And then, of course, one of the final sex jokes of the show is actually pretty funny, because they're kissing on the couch, and she goes, "What's gotten you so worked up?" And he says, "Your father." Because
Okay.
he was reading the nasty, smutty book, which is really great. And that, friends, is the end of the King of Queens crossover with Everybody Loves Raymond, season 1, episode 9, Road Rage. How did we feel about King of Queens? We'll start with you, Travis.
I mean, it was funny. It was exactly what I remembered it being, which is, it had some moments that made me laugh, mostly Jerry Stiller.
Mhm.
But overall, not super memorable.
Mhm.
It was all right. I probably wouldn't. There are plenty of other shows and other sitcoms even that I would watch before I go back to King of Queens. But if it were on, if I was out somewhere and I saw it, I'd be like, yeah, King of Queens. It's funny.
If you're waiting at the DMV.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's just
Yes.
Mhm.
And it's just on the TV.
Laugh
on the
TV,
TV.
or whatever it is that they play now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adi, how about you?
Yeah, I'd say about the same. Like, it was fun to watch. It was fun to actually watch a whole episode and get it. But I was like, yeah, okay, I'm good.
Yeah. Amy?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
with the boys. I mean, it was funny. Like it
Mhm.
was, but I do think like there's other sitcoms that do it better.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
deserves the like mediocre grade. Like, good enough
Yeah.
to be on for as long as it was.
Yeah.
But nothing to it's just plain Lay's potato chips. They taste
Exactly.
good.
Mm-hmm.
They do the job. They're fine.
Yeah.
There are better chips.
They're salty.
There are
they're
worse
crunchy.
chips. But
Yes.
They're not plain Lay's potato chips are not the potato chip you go out to get, but they end up like you're at a party and they're
Mhm.
there and you're like, well,
When
if I
they
want
come
some-
with your sandwich.
Exactly.
Yes, you're gonna
you don't
eat
go out of
those.
your way to get them.
Yeah, I landed in the same space. As much as I remember watching shows like this and Everybody Loves Raymond and Yes Dear, there's a handful of shows from this era that I
Mhm.
watched a lot of and I enjoyed. But it's funny, they were mostly held down by the Titans of Comedy, because even Yes Dear, which just popped into my head, had Tim Conway on it. And every episode with Tim
Mhm.
Conway had me just dying.
Mhm.
But they were good. They're fun. They're fun shows. It's definitely, for me, the TBS syndication. I'm already sitting on the couch. I turned it on. It's a bygone
Yes.
era. I'm not going to seek this
Right.
out. But if I turned on the TV
Right.
and I turned on TBS, I'd watch it.
Yep.
Which, in some ways, is a era I miss. I miss kind
I
of being
do.
forced into TV.
I miss not having to make a decision,
Yeah.
really. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Which is why, like, me finding out that my Samsung TV has Samsung TV Plus with
Mhm.
like channels that just run stuff, like, great. I can
Yeah.
just put something on and then I don't have to make a decision anymore. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I do miss I do miss that. I'm just gonna put this channel on,
Mhm.
and maybe it won't be great, but it is something.
Yeah. I watched multiple rounds of Home Improvement at my first
Mhm.
job out of school because it was on when I came home to eat lunch. That's why,
Yeah.
that was the experience. There wasn't an option. Back then Netflix was still doing DVDs. So yeah,
Yep.
I guess what we're trying to say is those were the days, man.
Mhm.
That's what it was all about. But
You
we
said the
are not
line.
done with crossovers. We've got more coming, and I know that Amy is excited to tell
I
us
am
all about what
excited.
she's doing.
All right, so we're going back to ground we have trod before.
Oh boy.
These are characters you will know
No.
visiting. And I have bullied Travis into joining me on this adventure.
Nice.
So for next week, we will be watching an episode of Magnum PI.
Yes.
And it
Nice.
is season 7, episode 9. And when I tell you the title, you will probably be able to figure it out. Novel Connection.
Nice.
Mhm.
Oh
I'm so
boy.
excited.
I am looking
Because
forward to
every
this.
show had to do Hawaii. When in doubt, just go visit Magnum. It works.
I'm so excited. This will be the second Magnum PI episode I've ever watched, and
Mhm.
I am really, really, really pumped about it. So this
I'm psyched.
should be great. So
Same.
that's Magnum PI season 7, episode 9, Novel Connection. Where's that playing, Amy?
That is on Roku.
On the
I'm
Roku.
sure it's probably some other places too, but Roku channel
Roku, YouTube,
has it
Daily
for
Motion,
free.
upside down and
Yeah,
backwards.
yeah,
Yeah. Wherever you need to find it.
the flashy lines through it. Yeah,
Yep.
Just like it blinks
wherever
every
you
so
can't find
often.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be great. I'm super
Mhm.
excited about it. Did we get any feedback for this episode, everybody? Anybody get anything?
I didn't see
I
anything, but
don't think anything specifically.
I did not, other than a Stigma did post that he was watching,
Right.
gonna watch the episode so that he could enjoy this.
That's awesome. Great. Yeah. And
Yeah.
a Stigma in the chat was kind of giving us a little review. Said planning on doing a watch of The King of Queens and Everybody Loves Raymond. So that's great. I mean, I'd love to inspire people to watch old TV that
Absolutely.
they
Yeah.
missed. I mean, there's so many
Mhm.
gems. So much time you could spend just turning on these old things and watching them. I have loved this dearly. This has been a wonderful time. If you would like to tell us about, if you've like, oh yes, I now remember this show now that you've talked about it, send us your comments, send us anything you know about Magnum PI and what I'm gonna assume is a Murder She Wrote crossover.
Mhm.
If I had to guess,
I
maybe.
guess we'll find out.
But if any of those shows
Yeah.
strike your fancy and you want to tell us a little bit about it, oh, I do
Yeah.
have feedback from
Yes.
the Rocco's Modern Life episode.
yes.
I had
Nice.
forgotten about this feedback, so I have
Yeah.
a coworker that messaged me to say he loved the Rocco's Modern Life episode. His wife worked at VH1 while Rocco's Modern Life was being aired, and he actually has a production cell from Rocco's Modern Life. It was one of his favorite
Yeah.
shows, and I
That
was
is so
like,
cool.
"What?" He's like, "Yeah, it's cell number 13 or something. I've got it on my desk."
Incredible.
Yeah, and it looks crazy cool. And I was super excited to hear that. So I'm glad we're getting some feedback like that from folks.
Mhm.
What a connection, though. That was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So those were the days show
Yeah,
at gmail.com if you want to send us your
Yes.
thoughts. You can also reach out to us on Blue Sky, all the socials. Those were the days. Those days show dot at those days show dot bsky dot social. That's the one. And
That's
Audie, I
it.
feel like I keep cutting you off.
No, I was just gonna say, like, definitely let us know stuff ahead of time because A Stigma said something on Blue Sky, and he posted about watching Law and Order, and then was like, brought up a clip of Ted where they're singing, making up their own lyrics to the theme song of Law and Order, and it's hilarious.
Oh, that's
And I was
Oh, I
like,
love it.
oh my gosh, if I had known this, that would have been part of my bit with
yeah,
the show last week. So
yeah.
definitely
You
hit us up
inspire
with that kind of
us.
stuff.
Sure,
Mhm.
sure. But until next time, it has been wonderful. We will see you next week for Magnum PI. For me, for Amy, for Audie, for Travis, this has been Those Were the Days.
My baby's getting lemons.
One of us was going to do that.